Hey guys, on today's episode of the John Campea Show, Angela Bassett may indeed be a front-runner for the Best Supporting Actress Oscar this year. Also, can Knives Out 2 spark a Netflix theatrical release trend? We hope so. Sandman Season 2 gets greenlit. Aubrey Plaza has joined Agatha. Cate Blanchett is returning to the MCU as Hela. And the Russo brothers' upcoming live-action Hercules remake is inspired by TikTok? That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around to talk about our favorite things in the world: movies, movie news, TV, streaming, all sorts of good stuff. We've got Robert Meyer Burnett joining us here today. Of course, back there, Ray Ora joining you guys in the live chat. Show's being run by Jonathan Voico, of course. And Taylor is joining us here today. You guys know that Tuesdays and Thursdays are Chris's day off, and Alou got sick last night. She texted me in the middle of the night saying she wasn't feeling so well, so she's not joining us today, but she'll be back and she'll be fine. But most importantly, you guys are here joining us, and we are so glad you decided to make this show part of your day. Here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break it down into two parts. First half of the show, we're going to talk about some predetermined topics. Then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. So one, you got to be watching live, but two, when we get to the end of the main topics, we'll announce that we're opening up the super chats, and that will be your opportunity to fire in your thoughts, theories, opinions, and questions for Rob and I to address in the second half of the show. Also, want to remind you guys that we do have a podcast feed here on the show. If you need your audio-only version of the show, just go on your favorite podcasting app of choice and search for the John Campea Show podcast, so it'll be there when you need it. And we have a secondary podcast feed simply called After Show, where we talk about shows like, well, Andor and House of the Dragon and things like that. So make sure you subscribe to that podcast feed as well. All right, guys, with that all down, let's get into an off the top, and that is this. You know, Black Panther, the first film that came out, I believe it was 2018 came out, became the first comic book movie ever to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. We've had Joaquin Phoenix then go ahead and win the Academy Award for Best Lead Actor for Joker, but something that has still not happened at the Academy Awards is a performer in an MCU movie being nominated for one of the Oscars. It's happened for a couple of DC films with, we had Joker once and Joker twice, but we've never had it happen for an MCU film, but it looks like that's going to end this year. Variety wrote a really good article up on the case that Angela Bassett is probably your front runner for your Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress this year. And, you know, from everybody that we've heard coming out and has went to go see Black Panther already, almost universally across the board, every reaction mentioned Angela Bassett by name, which is not a tremendous surprise, right? So they're all coming out saying Angela Bassett is phenomenal, but we don't really think of still comic book movies in terms of Academy Awards things. But when you go over and look at what the awards predictors are saying are your front runners right now, let's take a look at this. So right now, Variety and their staff, they're projecting out all the basic front runners for the Academy Awards. And under their category of Best Supporting Actress, they've got 5 that they believe are their current, what they would call their locks. This is who they think is going to get nominated for Best Supporting Actress. You got Jessie Buckley from Talking Women. Jamie Lee Curtis, they're saying, is going to get a nomination for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm surprised to see that, but I love seeing that. Carrie Condon from The Banshees of Inisherin. Nina Haas from Tar. But right in there amongst the 5, of course, they have Angela Bassett listed in there for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. This would mark, again, the first time ever that an MCU performer gets an Academy Award nomination here. Now, Rob, neither you or I have had a chance. I mean, we've seen pieces of Black Panther, but we haven't seen the movie as a whole. So you and I really can't speak to this definitively. But just from what you're hearing, what do you think the chances are she gets this nomination? And then how significant is that if she does end up getting this nomination?
Well, I mean, she can be my queen any day. I'm a huge Angela Bassett fan, all the way back to from What's Love Got to Do with It. she's an incredible performer. And every time I've seen her, you know, she was in Catherine Bigelow's movie Strange Days that James Cameron wrote, and she was phenomenal in that as Lenny Nero, as Ray Fiennes' bodyguard. She kicked ass. Everything that I've seen, every clip, every moment I've seen from Black Panther: Wakanda Forever looks like, I mean, she's ferocious in the role. She's tearing into it. And I think it would not surprise me at all to see her win. I wouldn't, you know, and as for significance, I mean, I like to see that comic book movies, which are sort of set apart, people are like, well, it's just a comic book movie. I mean, Black Panther already has set a bar. It was nominated for Best Picture. But I think, if anything, people think that these Black Panther films have a little bit more social significance, and indeed they do, I think. So it makes sense, and I think that it legitimizes, I mean, come on, costumes alone. It legitimizes the idea of what a comic book movie can be and what it means to the audience. They're not just, I mean, it took a long time for comic books themselves to be considered something more than just for kids. And I think the same is true of movies. There's a prejudice in the Academy against comic book themed films, I think.
See, I don't believe that. I think that was true. I think there was an era when that was true.
James Cameron just came out and said,
yeah, but James Cameron represents a certain segment.
Well, yes,
will, right?
But that's what I would say, that yes.
Yeah, there's certainly, like, with the thousands of members in the Academy, there's no doubt that there's absolutely will be a segment in there.
Yeah.
But with all the expansion the Academy has done, with all the fact, and listen, people in the Hollywood business love getting their bread buttered. And they know the movies that are buttering the bread right now, right? So I think you got a whole new era. Plus, you know, we go back, when you take out the Heath Ledger win for The Dark Knight, right? Because a lot of people thought that would be a one-off, that was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of performance and whatever. You saw things start to change when a couple of years ago, for the first time in any of the major categories, where you're talking about direction, best picture, screenplay, Logan got nominated for best screenplay. Remember that? Yeah. I thought it should have been nominated for best picture. And that kind of broke the seal, because since Logan got that best screenplay nomination, we've had, again, Joaquin Phoenix win best picture for playing a comic book character. We've now had, Black Panther was nominated for best picture. Wasn't there another comic book movie that got nominated for best picture? I can't remember.
No, The Dark Knight didn't.
No, The Dark Knight. But at any rate, we started now see that these major categories, because comic book movies used to be relegated to, you know, your secondary Oscar awards, your technical awards, things like that. But ever since the Logan happened, it's now really not surprising. The fact that we haven't had a performer in the MCU yet is a little bit surprising, but it looks like it's going to be broken this year. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? It looks like Angela Bassett may become the first performer in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie to get a Best Acting in the supporting category Oscar nomination. How big would that be? Would that throw the floodgates open even more? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's now go over to our Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. If you guys have a question and would like to hear your sultry voice on our show, just go ahead and call the hotline number anytime, 951-268-4259. Leave your voice message there, and you just might hear your voice on our Mint Mobile hotline. So, Jonathan, what's our Mint Mobile hotline today?
Hey, guys. This is Tucker calling from San Diego. Just wondering about the chance that if Knives Out debuts and it opens up really well for Netflix, do you think there's any chance that A, they would extend the theatrical window for the theaters and maybe keep Knives Out in theaters even longer and maybe even push back the release on Netflix? And then B, will this lead to them hopefully having more movies be released in theaters for hopefully longer than a week? I just love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot for calling that in, Tucker. And, you know, we were talking a little while ago when the news came out that Netflix was finally going to try a legitimate theatrical release. Now, I say legitimate, not necessarily full-blown, but legitimate. Because what Netflix has done for years is they've played the Oscar contender game, where they have done the bare minimum to qualify their films for Academy Awards. You know, it's got to be released for like 1 week in a theater in Los Angeles where a paying audience can see it. Just the smallest of qualifiers, right? They've done that so they can qualify for the Oscars. But with Knives Out 2, Glass Onion, They are doing a full nationwide release for, what is it, 1 week? A 1 week release.
1 week.
But it's going to be nationwide, which is not something they've ever done before. And then a month after that, that's when it'll go on Netflix. This is something they have never done before. Now, Rob and I have had a debate previously about whether they should just done a full, regular, true, full theatrical release with a month and a half run, whatever, or whether this intermediary step is a good thing. But in asking the question, what's the results of this going to be? Well, that's the big one.
Yeah.
Because I think look, Netflix is doing this for a reason. They're not just doing this because they're bored. They are doing this specifically to see if this is something that will work for us, to see if theatrical, can we start seeing ourselves as a company as being more than just a streaming company? Can we start to look at ourselves as a full-blown, true entertainment production company that is theatrical, television, much like Disney and Warner Brothers? Can they see themselves becoming one of the big studios? And that will all depend on how Glass Onion does. Because if Glass Onion can come out, what did Black Adam just make? Like 60 something, right? Black Adam made 60, starring the biggest movie star in the world, in the hottest genre in the world. All right. If Glass Onion can come out and make like $25-30 million in its opening weekend, and I'm not giving any predictions here, I'm just saying, if it can come out and make $25-30 million, there are two radically important things the Netflix executives are going to have to look in the mirror and acknowledge. Number one, this is $25-30 million we wouldn't have normally had. That's $25-30 free million that are just going straight to Netflix, never would have got us. So there's that. The second thing they're going to have to acknowledge is that, man, if it has that popularity in theaters, when we do launch this thing on Netflix, it's going to have a larger launch than we were projecting. And Rob, that's the second part, right? Step one, they got to have a decent to strong opening weekend. Step two, they got to take whatever they thought Glass Onion would launch on Netflix with, like how many viewing hours it would get, and see if it'll actually have a higher amount of viewing hours than they were anticipating because it had a theatrical release first. Rob, these are the two elements, and only two elements, that are going to determine if Netflix, number one, does this again, and if they expand on it. And I think both will happen. Whether it be 25-30, maybe it'll be 20, whatever. But the trailers have looked really good. People loved the first movie. And I think with that success, it will lead to a higher than normal view hour rating when it does launch on Netflix. So I do think this is going to start a trend for them. What do you think is going to happen here? And am I missing anything when I say I think the two elements that will determine it are the opening weekend and its opening on Netflix?
Well, I agree with everything you just said. You know, the debate that we had, and I feel this more now than ever before, is of all the movies that they could try a theatrical strategy with, Glass Onion is probably the best. They've spent over $450 million to make two films, and minus fees, whatever. Let's just be conservative and say that.
Well, they didn't pay $450 million to make two movies.
Right.
They paid $450 million to Ryan Johnson as partners to make them and keep whatever they had left over.
Right, exactly. So, but let's just say that the movies cost. Here's the thing. They're doing this theatrical release. They have a movie, a franchise property that any other studio would make a theatrical release. And yet, to get the information that you stated, which I totally agree with, they're not giving the film a proper wide release. They're putting it in 600 theaters for a week. They do not have the marketing budget that they should. If you look at, I mean, they're opening it over Thanksgiving. I've seen more ads for Avatar 2 that opens 2 months from now in the last 3 days than I have for this. And I think that the information they want, they're not going to get. I mean, maybe they can sit there and go, well, if we fractionalize it out and we extrapolate whatever we do get, that it would be 3 times better. I think that they should have gone all in, and we know what the theatrical model is, how it works, 3,000, 4,000 screens, whatever. I think that they should have gone all in on this particular movie, and it's over a holiday weekend, a holiday time. I mean, they should have followed the successful theatrical model that this most resembles and followed that playbook. And I think only then would they get the data they need. And it's my fear, because everything you said is correct. Exactly the two things that they most need to have. They need to see money they're going to make, and did they get a boost in subscribers and viewership for their platform. That's all that matters. but I don't think they're giving themselves, they're not all in enough to get the data they need to make that final decision. I think, like you had said before, it's a good place to start. And I understand that you don't jump in the deep end of the pool. But in this case, the model that they're following is a tried and true one that's been true for decades. And they should just follow it this one time to get the information they need, because whatever data they're going to get is not entirely representative of what the truth is, I don't think.
See, but you pointed it out yourself, though. They're going to extrapolate, right?
Yeah.
And I think, like, you got to understand, I come out of the AMC camp, right? So, and at AMC, they had a very hard and fast rule: crawl, walk, run. We do everything short, small steps, and we eventually get, and I saw that company, when it was under better leadership, I saw that company last for 100 years and become the biggest exhibitor in the world with that. Like, I actually think, now look, if they did go, I mentioned this before when we discussed this, if they went full blown, just 2,500 theaters, full theatrical, blah, blah, I would have no problem with that. Like,
sure,
that would be fine to me. That would be fine. But I actually think they're exhibiting a lot of wisdom in saying, "Okay, this is totally antithetical to what our entire model is. So we are going to do something small. We're going to try this. We're going to stick our toe in." And they will, like you said, they will extrapolate those results. They know they can't look for a $40 or $50 million opening on this. They know that. They know they can't expect to get, $150 million in its full theatrical run because it's only a week. They know all that. So they know they're looking for those incremental numbers. And if they get those incremental numbers, that will embolden them, I think, to do more. The last thing I want to see happen is, because here's the thing. Let's say this glass onion experiment doesn't work, okay? I think they are more likely to continue trying if it didn't work when they just stuck their toe in the water. My fear would be if they just went cannonball, full dive into the pool with it and did a full release, all the marketing, all that kind of stuff, and it didn't work, that they would recoil and do, whoa, we're not doing that again. So I think there's a safety here for them.
I would agree with you if this was an unknown property. But this isn't an unknown property.
Right, but it's also not a comic book property.
No,
right?
but it's a franchise property, and they have the first release of the franchise to look at. And they should at least emulate what that first release is. If nothing else, copy that first release. Because that's what you've got. And you have this tried and true method. It's not like they're trying something that had never been done before.
But
it's just
not
they're
tried
a
and
company.
true. Exactly. That's the point, right? It's not tried and true for them. It's
Right.
completely antithetical to how they do things.
But it's like if you were going to build a product like, say, a car, you wouldn't build a car that was significantly different than other cars on the road.
No, but you also probably wouldn't make a Lamborghini your first car if it was your first one you're building.
But
right?
is
you'd
this
probably start with a tricycle with a motor on it.
But this is, as far as franchise properties go, they certainly have spent enough money to
Which
make
I
it.
think is why they're going to try it with this property.
Yeah.
I think that's why they're going to do it with this property. But will it get the effects and will it start a trend? I think it will. The answer will really lie with what you and I do about it, with whether we go to check it out when it comes out. Questions for you. How do you feel about this? Do you think this is going to open a floodgate for them? Do you think people will go and check it out? Do you think that will spur Netflix to either embrace it or reject it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're going to take a quick break here and thank one of the sponsors of our show. They've been one of the longest sponsors we've ever had, the great folks over at Stamps.com. We want to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Stamps.com. Guys, it happens every holiday season. No matter how prepared we think we are for the season, it always turns out we're nowhere near as prepared as we thought we were, especially with our shipping. And right about now, seasonal excitement, or dread as the case may be, is really starting to settle in, especially for small businesses. Slaying through traffic to the post office, inboxes more like a blizzard than a winter wonderland, rushing to send cards and gifts to your loyal clients. The good news is it's not too late to get your holiday mailing and shipping under control with Stamps.com. Sign up now and you'll be printing your own postage in minutes. Because Stamps.com is your one-stop shop for all of your shipping and mailing needs. Get access to the United States Postal Service and UPS services that you need to run your business right from your computer. Up to 86% off. So this holiday season, trade late nights for silent nights and get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code code CAMPEA for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter the code CAMPEA. And thank you to our friends at Stamps.com for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. Okay, guys, with that down, we're going to move into our main topics here. And how do we select our main topics on the show? Well, that's where you guys come in, because you guys come up with our main topics. Whenever you come across a big topic, issue, or story that you guys feel we need to cover as a main topic on the show, just go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's absolutely free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, Rob, what's our first main topic today? You should like this.
Oh, I can't wait. Aiden Foley says, "Hey, John and crew, did you guys hear that Sandman has been renewed for a second season on Netflix? Very happy this show didn't get the acts of pain that Netflix typically dishes out with their television shows. I bet Rob's over the moon about this. Thanks."
Well, it shouldn't surprise you that we found out around here in the afternoon, yesterday afternoon when this news came out. I found out because I was in my office and I heard, yes, coming out of the studio, and came out, and sure enough, Rob had seen the news that Sandman has indeed been greenlit for season 2. There was a lot of, there was speculation about whether it would. Neil Gaiman himself was on social media saying, look, we don't know that we're getting picked up for season 2, despite the fact that it was the #1 show in the world during its run, all the success in the world, but that's just the way Netflix does business. But now it's official. It is coming back. This comes to us from the folks over at Variety, who wrote the following. Millions upon millions of people have welcomed and watched and loved The Sandman on Netflix, from established Sandman fans to people who were simply curious and then became obsessed with the Lord of Dreams, his family, and their goings-on, said Neil Gaiman in a statement. It gives me unbelievable pleasure to say that working with Netflix and Warner Brothers, Alan Heinberg, David Goyer, and I will be bringing even more of the Sandman stories to life. There are some astonishing stories waiting for Morpheus and the rest of them, not to mention more members of the Endless family to meet. Nobody is going to be happier about this than the Sandman cast and crew. They are the biggest Sandman fans there are, and now it's time to get back to work. There's a family meal ahead, after all, and Lucifer is waiting for Morpheus to return to hell. Once again, that comes from the folks at Variety. Rob, you know, I am not nearly the Sandman fan that you are. So going into the Sandman and watching, I was just really curious. Ann and I got hooked instantly. Like, we just instantly got hooked. It was a beautifully shot, beautifully made, wonderfully acted, imaginative soaring kind of series that, you know, is not a frame by frame, shot by shot thing of the graphic novels.
Pretty close though.
But it reflects it very, very well, that a lot of the fans have said, and it's just been damn great. And to see success be rewarded, that's always been the hard thing about watching shows and things that happen to shows on Netflix, is that, you know, effort doesn't necessarily get rewarded. You need results. What really sucks is when you put in the effort and you get results and you don't get rewarded. You get canceled instead. It's great seeing that combination get rewarded. Season 2's coming. Rob, you're probably the happiest guy I know about this. What was your take when you saw this?
Well, first of all, I love the first season, and I was very surprised that they actually did the first 18 episodes of the comic in order. Like, I never thought I would see that in my wildest dreams, because, John, over the last 30 years, I've read so many shitty Sandman scripts for various iterations they've tried to make. Never thought they would do this. And for the most part, they did a tremendous job adapting these stories. And yeah, they had to pull out the DC Comics stuff, but they made it all work. They made it more under the Sandman. And like he just teased, like Neil Gaiman just teased, the next season of Sandman has my favorite arc in it, the Season of Mists. And if they go the way I think they're going to go, the opening episode is a banger. And it's a wonderfully lyrical episode about William Shakespeare and the very first performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream. In fact, that is the name of the comic in question. And then it moves into the Season of Mist storyline, which is going to last, I would imagine, at least 10 episodes, because it's one of the longest Sandman stories. and you meet his family, you go back to hell, you meet, all the Norse gods, the Egyptian gods, the pantheon of gods. It is going to blow people away if they do that, and they're going to do it properly. And I can't wait. If nothing else, I just wanted a second season because I've wanted to see a season of Mists brought to life on screen since 89, 90? 32 years, and to see it with Neil Gaiman involved, I can't wait, dude. I'm so excited. I can't, I was skipping around the house last night.
So on a side note, just everyone keep sending Rob your scripts to Sandman. That's what he's saying. He needs a good one, right?
No, I am not.
Using stamps.com.
No.
Using stamps.com, send your transcript to Robert Meyer Burnett. All right, guys. I'm sure a lot of people are super excited about this. Again, it's great seeing excellence and success rewarded. Sandman gets its season 2. Questions for you guys. Are you excited about this? Did you have any doubt? Maybe you haven't checked out Sandman yet. Whatever your comments are, jump down to the comment section below and leave those thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. Rob, what's our second main topic today?
John, it comes from Kremenin Cider. Good morning, crew. I just want to say that Deadline is reporting that Aubrey Plaza is joining Marvel's Agatha, Coven of Chaos. Apparently, she's playing a villain in this series. Do you guys have an idea of who she could be playing? I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions, and also bring on the filthy.
All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, I am progressively getting more and more excited about Agatha. First of all, I was incredibly thrilled when we heard that Catherine Hahn was joining the series. I've been a huge fan and advocate. I've been banging the drum of Catherine Hahn for a long time, that you guys got everybody. She's one of these comedic actresses that everybody knows her face, but a lot of people didn't know her name.
Right.
But she's been in just about almost every great thing comedy-wise the past 15 years. She's probably been in it in one shape or form. She's fantastic. And then her turn as Agatha on WandaVision was absolutely fantastic. Now, we've been getting some casting news coming out lately and stuff like that, but none of it has excited me as much as this, as Aubrey Plaza, who I adore, has been added to it. This comes to us from the folks over at Deadline, who wrote the following. Aubrey Plaza, who's currently starring in season 2 of HBO's The White Lotus, which I've got to watch someday. I've still never seen White Lotus.
Oh, you like
it. Has been tapped for a role opposite Catherine Hahn and Joe Locke in Agatha, Coven of Chaos, Marvel's upcoming WandaVision spin-off series for Disney+. Details about Plaza's role are being kept under wraps, but she's believed to be playing a villain opposite Hahn and Locke. A rep for Marvel declined comment. Hahn is reprising her role as WandaVision's bad gal Agatha in the series. Emma Caulfield Ford is also set to reprise her role as Dottie from the WandaVision series. And again, that comes us from the folks at Deadline. Theoretically speaking, in a multiverse, this is Aubrey Plaza's second Marvel character that she's playing, because she was in Legion.
Yep.
So maybe though she'll meet a multiversal version of herself. Who knows what they'll do there? Listen, like most people, I first got turned on to Aubrey Plaza with Parks and Rec. April Ludgate is one of the best deadpan comedy characters ever. I love her in that show. Then she did this great little indie comedy, like sexual coming of age comedy that she did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Clark Gregg. And I'm trying to remember. Do you remember the one I'm talking about?
Was it Ingrid Goes West?
What's that?
Was it Ingrid Goes West?
No, it wasn't Ingrid Goes West.
That's great too.
But it's about this. She plays a high school girl getting ready to go to college, but she wants to lose her virginity before she goes to college. So if you guys in the live chat can remember the name of that movie, please, by all means, let us know. I think it's called The To-Do List. That's it. Yes. Yeah. Guys in the live chat, Team Movies, Talking Entertainment, The To-Do List. It's actually a really funny, charming little film. You should absolutely check it out. I haven't caught her in White Lotus yet, but I loved her work in Legion as well. I always say it is never a mistake to add talent. Aubrey Plaza is next level talent. I love her, and her on screen with Catherine Hahn, which of course a little bit of a Parks and Recreation reunion there, I think is going to be fantastic. I honestly think this might now be my number one most anticipated MCU Disney Plus show. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm super excited for Secret Invasion, a number of their other projects, but this one just connects with me. for whatever reason. Anyway, Rob, you hear about Aubrey Plaza joining Agatha. What do you think?
Well, I think she's not just a deft comedic actress. She's also a great dramatic actress. She has that movie where she's playing a criminal as she gets involved in a credit card scam. I forget what it's.
Emily the Criminal.
Emily the Criminal. And I saw like half of it and I couldn't fit. It was really good.
And that was her in Safety Not Guaranteed too, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Colin Trevorrow's movie. Yes. I mean, she's slowly been eking out this really impressive career that shows her range as an actress. And like you pointed out, her comedy chops are unparalleled, especially for her age. I mean, the breadth of comedy work she's already done. And she's a leading actress too. I mean, she kind of reminds me, she looks nothing like her, and her comedy stylings are different, but like what Goldie Hawn used to do. Like I remember seeing Goldie Hawn in Private Benjamin. Now I'm really dating myself and loving that movie. But I think Aubrey Plaza's got more of a darkness to her, but I just think she's fantastic. And she's chameleon-like too. She can play different roles. So if she's a villain opposite Catherine Hahn's already villainous character, like if they go up against each other, sign me up.
What do you think the chance would be? Now, I don't know enough. Like, I know enough about Agatha from the comics to know that's Agatha, but I don't know enough about a character to really venture a lot of a guess about who Aubrey Plaza might be. But my one totally, with no foundation, in fact, wild guess and speculation is, you remember in WandaVision, they started the one episode with the flashback to Salem. I wonder if she won't be one of the original Coven members as well.
I don't know who she is going to be. I don't know, but I suspected, that's exactly what I thought, that you were going to see, because they've already set precedent. And one of the things, John, I'm always banging on about the cosmology of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That in WandaVision was the furthest we've ever gone back in time and seen the history of the MCU. I mean, that was a huge leap. And I was like, whoa, wait.
I never thought about that, but you're right. That's probably the furthest back. Yeah,
I mean, it goes back hundreds of years establishing the supernatural, which to me, my mind, whether it's Man-Thing.
Well, I guess Eternals went back further, but whatever.
Well, but Eternals hadn't come out yet.
Right. Now that's true. Yes.
And at the time, it was dealing with something different that we hadn't seen before, and I thought that was also fascinating, and so I want to get into the supernatural realm. I'm waiting. I am sure they're gonna touch on all of that. There's gonna be vampires. There's gonna be wizards. Whatever the hell they're gonna do, but they're gonna have to. And I am sure that whatever rivalry began with the two of them, it began back in the day, hundreds of years ago.
Now, somebody in the live chat, I missed out whose name it was, but somebody in the live chat pointed out she could be Agatha's daughter, which would also set up. I mean, parental children and spats are always interesting too. So, a lot of possibilities, guys. We love the idea of Aubrey Plaza joining Agatha. How do you guys feel about it? Maybe you weren't a Parks and Rec person. Maybe you're not an Aubrey Plaza person, but whatever. How do you feel about this news? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, we're going to take another quick break here. Thanks to our friends and one of the sponsors of today's show, Wondery, and their official Rings of Power podcast. Guys, we want to thank one of the sponsors of this episode, Wondery, and their official Lord of the Rings Rings of Power podcast. Your hosts, Felicia Day, and several special guests provide an inside look at the groundbreaking series and what it took to bring Middle-earth to life. Each of the episodes of the official podcast features exclusive interviews with the series showrunners, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, including the very first full breakdown of the incredible season finale. Felicia also goes behind the scenes with the cast and crew to bring you jaw-dropping stories and Easter eggs you won't want to miss. So watch The Rings of Power on Prime Video and listen to all 8 episodes of the official The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power podcast for free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app now. And thank you to our friends at Wondery for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. Remember, guys, when you support our sponsors, you're actually supporting us. So make sure you go down into the description of this video. Right at the top, you'll see links and promo codes to all of our sponsors. And thank you again to Wondery. All right, guys, with that down, let's get into main topic number 3. Rob, what's our third main topic today?
John comes to us from Armand. Hey, John and team, I just read a report that said Cate Blanchett will be coming back to play Hela again in the MCU. The catch is that it's only as her voice in What If Season 2. But my question is Do you think getting a huge name like Cate Blanchett back in the fold like this could be a precursor to getting her back in live action? What do you think?
All right, thanks a lot for writing that in, Armand. And you know, every once in a while, a name will still come up. Like, it's no longer the case that, well, no real actors want to be in a comic book movie. Those days are long, long, long gone. Like once you got Anthony Hopkins and Robert Redford and like all these guys coming in, that doesn't count anymore. But still, there are still names once in a while that when they come up that they're joining, you go, wow. That happened recently with Moon Knight. Why am I freezing on Moon Knight?
Oscar Isaac?
Oscar Isaac. Yeah, when Oscar Isaac joined, it's like, wow. But I remember when we heard that Cate Blanchett was going to be in Thor Ragnarok. It's like, whoa, time out. Because I think it's commonly accepted that other than the Streep monster, that Cate Blanchett may be the de facto considered the best actress in the world. I mean, if not absolute by everybody, on a lot of people's dance cards, it's Meryl Streep, obviously, and then maybe Cate Blanchett next. And when they announced that she was joining the MCU, I was like floored, absolutely floored by that. And she was great as Hela. I loved her as Hela. Of course, she had a very, unceremonious end with Surtur and everything like that in Ragnarok. But hey, it is the Marvel fake death universe after all. And now she is coming back, except in animated form, but could it mean more? This comes from the folks over at CBR who wrote the following. As reported by Laughing Place, who attended the 2022 Lightbox Expo, What If director Brian Andrews confirmed that Cate Blanchett is returning to the Marvel Studios' Journey into Imagination panel. The filmmaker noted his amazement at working alongside of the actor as she recorded her lines for Hela, who will feature as a yet unknown episode of season 2 of What If. While details on the villain's role have yet to be confirmed, Andrews did promise that Thor's evil sister will be depicted in a way fans have never seen before. Now, talking about flashbacks, my first thought on this is that they might go back to before, like maybe when her and Odin were like bosom buddies. They were father and daughter side by side, bringing law and order to the universe and all that kind of stuff before she, went a little crazy and started like killing everybody. So maybe a bit of that. So that's interesting. What If has done a great job as a series. Now, I don't love What If, but it certainly had a couple of episodes I thought were fantastic and a couple of episodes that weren't. But what was really impressive about it was then like getting almost all the real cast to come in and do their own voices. They weren't able to land everybody, but they got just about even Chadwick Boseman.
Yep.
In his final MCU effort.
An Emmy Award, maybe Emmy winning. Was it Emmy winning or Emmy nominated performance for that voiceover?
I don't think he won an Emmy for that, but I might be wrong. That's interesting. Taylor, if you can look that up, that would be great. Because that's an interesting factoid if true. But I mean, it's great. So to get her to come in is fantastic. But you raise a great question about, do you really go and get like multi-Oscar Cate Blanchett just come in and do a day or two of talking? Is this a potential reflection that she could be making her overall return to the MCU? Because remember, we don't actually see her die. She gets hit. We assume she dies, but you never know. I'm going to go out on a limb based on no fact whatsoever and say, I think she's coming back. I think Hela is going to return because the more and more powerful they continue to make these Marvel characters, and they do, they continue to overpower them to a degree, but you're going to need legit foils. And the reality is Thor was never able to overcome his sister. Like and she almost stopped Surtur herself, right? So she reminds me a lot of Abomination. Abomination, which had been sitting out there dormant for a long time. And I said, guys, Abomination is still there. They never killed him in the movie. He is a great, powerful foil. They need to bring him back. They brought him back, not necessarily in the way that I would have in She-Hulk, but still. I think Hela can be another character like that. So while I think it's great that she's going to come in and do her voice for What If Season 2, I'm more intrigued by this could be a sign that she is sticking around in the MCU. Again, this is based on no insider information, pure speculation on my part, but that's where I think it's going. I don't know, Rob, what do you think about Cate Blanchett staying in the MCU family? She's voicing Hela again. And do you think that could be a precursor to her returning?
Well, first of all, I think that a lot of actors, especially of her ilk, like to just do things that are fun. Yeah. Because she doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. So I think she's probably thinking, I've never really done an animated character before, so why not? And as far as her coming back, everyone's coming back in Secret Wars. Everybody who's ever played a character ever is
They're
going to be.
all gonna be
They're
back.
all going to be back. Tony Stark's going to be back. Steve Rogers is going to be. Everyone is coming back for that movie. It's going to be a blowout. It may be even DC characters now. I'm kidding.
Well, now that James Gunn's there.
I know, but everyone's going to be coming back for Secret Wars because that's what it is. And I think that for sure she's coming back. And why not? I mean, why wouldn't you want her to come back? And I think she probably had a blast making this movie. So it's like, yeah, you want me to come back? Sign me up.
Corey in the live chat just came up with a great thing too. I would love to see her as the crazy aunt to Thor's kid. Now that Thor's got love, imagine her as Auntie Hela.
Or turning love into a villain.
I mean, yeah, that too. I mean, that's what things that went on there.
Bad
She's crazy
protege.
powerful. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Cate Blanchett, one of the world's greatest actresses, is coming back to do the voice of Hela in What If Season 2, but could that mean she's back maybe in a more permanent way? I suspect maybe it is. Maybe it's not at all. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. Rob, what is our fourth main topic today?
John, our fourth main topic comes to us from Darren Robinson. Hey, y'all, did you guys see the report from Variety about the live-action Hercules the Russos are doing for Disney? Apparently, it's going to be a modern-day musical inspired by TikTok? Excuse me, but what? Joe, Anthony, are you okay? John, you said that the Russos' track record hasn't been great post-Endgame, but could this really harm their careers if this idea comes to fruition and flops?
All right, Darren, thanks a lot for saying that in. You know, it was really fascinating to find out that the Russos are going to be producing. They're not directing. Guy Ritchie is directing. But that the Russos are overseeing and producing a live-action version of the Hercules animated movie that they did. When we heard that Guy Ritchie was going to be brought in as the director, I am crazy for Guy Ritchie. I love his films. And when I didn't think he was a good fit to do Aladdin, and then I loved Aladdin.
Yeah.
So this actually made me really excited to see this. But yeah, there's some kind of interesting things being said about this. This comes to us from Variety, who wrote the following. Whereas many of Disney's recent live-action remakes have been faulted for sticking too closely to the source material, Russo says Hercules will be a little bit more experimental in tone, a little bit more experimental in execution. I think they're excited to see what we can all bring to it in a way that isn't just a reinterpretation of the animated film, Russo adds. Guy, being Guy Ritchie, is perfect for it because he has a I never know how to pronounce this word.
Penchant
for experimentation, Russo says. There are questions about how you translate it as a musical, Russo says. Audiences today have been trained by TikTok, right? What is their expectation of what that musical looks like and feels like? That can be a lot of fun and help us push the boundaries a little bit more to how you execute a modern musical. That again comes to us from Variety. All right. If you just read the headlines about Russo brothers basing Hercules on TikTok, right? And those headlines are going around. And if you just read the headlines, like I first read the headline, I'm like, Joe, Anthony, what are you doing, guys? What are you doing? But when you actually read the quote, it's not. Some people are treating this as if Joe and Anthony Russo sat down and said, guys, listen, we have a new paradigm for our philosophical approach to this movie. And that paradigm is TikTok. And everything we do, is that how TikTok would do it? Each scene can be no longer than 30 seconds. Each this, and that's not what they did. He was kind of just talking and rambling. And he said, well, you know, like musical, like TikTok, like we're going to kind of rework how we approach as a musical, right? All I think this probably means is punchier music and shorter musical numbers. Now, I don't like the idea of shorter musical numbers because in these types of, it's not like I'm the world's biggest musical fan, but if you're going to do a musical, give us really good, meaty musical numbers, right? Don't shorten it up. But then again, I'm just theorizing too. Like, I don't know exactly. He didn't go into detail about what he meant by the TikTok thing. I just don't think we should get away from it and like start blowing this up into believing that this means the whole movie is going to be based on some stupid little TikTok. That's not necessarily what he means or meant. I think the most likely scenario is they're talking about, again, punchier songs and maybe shorter musical numbers. But I don't think you're going to see a TikTok-inspired Hercules. Anyway, Rob, you actually read the full quote of what the Russos were saying. What's your takeaway from the TikTok statement?
Well, I think, look, I mean, the studios are hiring TikTokers now to develop, to be incubators for new properties. So the thing is, TikTok is just a platform where people are using the limitations in very innovative ways. There's a lot of really interesting filmmaking going on TikTok. There's a lot of humor using the format of TikTok to create the humor. There's all kinds of interesting creative energy happening there. So, of course, the whole industry is looking to TikTok. I don't think people want to turn feature films into TikTok videos. But the way people do funny things like the way they lip sync to songs, or the way they create scenarios on TikTok, there's a lot of ideas to be mined there, and that's all they're saying. I mean, they're not, we're going to make a TikTok version of a Disney musical live action. They're not saying that at all. But TikTok is an emergent, and the idea of reels themselves, whether they're 90 seconds or 2 minutes, this is a whole new entertainment form that is the bounds of creativity are being pushed every single day. And that's what they're looking to, and anybody would. So it excites me. Look, Guy Ritchie, while sometimes his movies haven't worked, I mean, more often than not, he'll make a Snatch, he'll make a Gentleman, he'll make the Sherlock Holmes movies.
I liked his King Arthur movie.
Yeah, I did too.
I don't care what anybody else says. I liked his King Arthur movie.
I mean, he's got a sensibility. I mean, Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh, I love his Man from
U.N.C.L.E.
U.N.C.L.E.
And if you look at his filmography, it's all over the place. And he's brought something new and innovative. Like you said, Guy Ritchie doing Aladdin. I mean, look, that's all I need to have him to go. And if you look his like King Arthur, what do you think he's going to bring to Hercules? I bet it's going to be pretty awesome, whatever it is.
Yeah, and again, if all you have to go on to is his Disney track record, which was Aladdin, I thought he knocked that out of the park.
And
go ahead.
For the Russos to be, I mean, the Russos need a hit as producers.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking they're like, yeah, we like what he did with Aladdin. It made $1 billion. We'd like to have that happen for our careers too, so we can say we produced it.
By the way, side interesting note in this interview as well. There were a lot of people speculating. I remember I speculated 6 months ago, a year ago, whatever, that I kind of thought maybe there was a chance the Russo brothers come back to do maybe one of the next Avengers movies and stuff like that. Well, don't hold your breath for that, because in the same interview, the Russos mentioned that they mentioned they're probably going to come back to Marvel, but probably not till the end of the decade. So if there's any kind of thoughts about them coming back anytime soon, it ain't going to happen. You mentioned, some of the big agencies are hiring TikTokers now. I remember it was like 6-7 years ago when the same agency started hiring on popular YouTubers. That didn't work out so well.
No.
And I don't think the TikTok thing, and by the way, TikTok, this isn't really all that new. Remember Vine?
Sure. Yeah, I know.
Vine came and went. So I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how all this works out. Questions for you guys. What do you think about this? I am very much looking forward to this Hercules movie. You got Guy Ritchie directing that. I think that could be a lot of fun. I think people are overblowing this whole TikTok comment, but maybe they're not. Maybe we'll see how experimental exactly Joe and Anthony are talking about being there. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 5. Rob, what is our 5th main topic today?
John, our 5th main topic comes from Cool Kid 260. I read that The Mandalorian Season 3 could come in February 2023. If this is true, that means Pedro Pascal could be in 2 big shows that air within 1 week from each other. This show and The Last of Us, which is set to come out in mid-January. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it won't be 1 week apart, Cool Kid, but we're about to be living in Pedro Pascal's world because we already know how great and how popular, how beloved Mandalorian is, right? And from everybody I've talked to, Mandalorian Season 3 is fairly easily, they're telling me, the best season of Mandalorian they've done so far. And, they've shown some previews. The previews have looked fantastic. We're all super excited about it. So we just found out for sure that Last of Us, what was it, January 15th?
Right.
January 15th is when The Last of Us is going to air. Now, I think it's making Star Wars is the outlet that came out and said they have found out. I think they're saying February 23rd. I think that's when they're saying it was. Taylor, you can double check that with the link. But I think they're saying February
22nd.
22nd?
Yeah, it's a
February
Wednesday.
22nd. Now, they did kind of whisper at, it was either Star Wars Celebration or D23 that the next season of Mandalorian would be coming in February of 2023. So we've kind of known that was a date coming. Now, it's important to note that Disney has come out and said, or Lucasfilm has come out and said that we haven't finalized our release date thing, but it's looking like it's going to be February. Okay. So Last of Us and Mandalorian Season 3 will not be airing 1 week apart. It's going to be 3 or 4. We're going to be 3 or 4 weeks into The Last of Us before it comes out. But for a good month or so,
Yeah, there will be about 4 weeks of overlap.
probably about 4 something weeks of overlap, probably the number 1 and the number 2 show in the world during that stretch are both going to be Pedro Pascal shows.
How many episodes is Mandalorian? Do we know? Or how many was it before in season 1 and 2?
I think it was
Is it 8?
8.
8.
I want to say 8.
I want to say 9.
Somewhere between 8 and 10 in there somewhere. So you're going to get a good number of weeks of overlap where Pedro Pascal is going to be the star of probably the number 1 show in the world and the number 2 show in
Right.
the world.
And that also means it's probably like 14 weeks in totality of him just being on a streaming.
Yeah, just
show.
being the number 1 guy
14,
in the world.
15 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, all the way through. So to me, this is pretty fantastic. Look, I love Mandalorian. Last of Us has the potential to, Last of Us has the potential to be Game of Thrones or HBO's next Game of Thrones. That's how good I think the source material story of Last of Us and Last of Us 2 is. I think it could be that next big one for HBO. I don't know for sure. Maybe nobody watches it. No idea. But I think this is pretty exceptional. And it looks like Pedro Pascal is finally getting his due. Anyway, Rob, you're seeing this. What stands out to you?
Well, I think he got his due in Equalizer 2 when he was the villain. No.
Or Kingsman 2.
Yeah. No, I think that this is a great thing. I mean, look, sometimes it just plays out that actors show up in 2 big projects at the same time, even though, because it takes a long time to make these things. I really like Pedro Pascal as an actor, despite the fact that I thought he was miscast, or maybe it was written the wrong way in Wonder Woman 84, because I love the character of Maxwell Lord. But I really love him as a performer.
You and I both know that wasn't the only problem with Wonder Woman 84.
Yes, that's quite true. Quite true. But I think this is great. And, just because if it's Pedro Pascal's world and we're only going to live in it for a few months, more power to him. I mean, if The Last of Us, that show looks phenomenal. I mean, let's face it, those trailers, everything we've seen, and in terms of an adaptation of the source material, and then just as a show in its own right, I mean,
who's running the show?
Craig Mazin, the man who made Chernobyl.
Right? That by itself, like, you don't even have to say Last of Us. Say, hey, the guy who did Chernobyl, he's show running a new show coming out in February or January. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Period. And it's Last of Us. It's crazy.
And Craig Mazin is an Ivy League educated creator. He's an incredibly smart guy that kind of stuck in comedy for a while. And I kind of like to see him come out of the gate and do Chernobyl. I'm expecting, look, because it's him, I'm expecting huge things from Last of Us. And with everything we've seen from Mandalorian, including that leaked trailer or whatever, dude, come on. That 3rd season looks, whether it's the retaking of Mandalore, they've set up, the table has been set. I expect a banquet of epic Star Wars proportions. And the funny thing is that the feeling of these 2 shows could not be more different. The Mandalorian and The Last of Us. So it's going to be like, I bet we're even going to forget we're watching Pedro Pascal in both roles because they're so different.
Here's a question. Has Pedro Pascal ever been given the true lead in a major Hollywood release film? I can't think of one off the top of my head. If any of you guys in the room can think of one, I can't think of one. But if not, then that might be coming now.
Could be.
I mean, that's got to be on the dock for somebody. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Possibly the 2 biggest shows in the world during its time frame is going to be starring the same guy, and Pedro Pascal is going to be kind of leading the entertainment world for like a good 14 weeks or something like that. What do you guys think about that? Are you a huge fan of his? Maybe not. Whatever you think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's now time for us to open up the super chats. If you guys have thoughts, theories, opinions, or questions you want us to address, Go ahead and start firing in those now. We only leave the super chats open for a few minutes, so try to get them in fairly quickly. And before we get to those super chats, we're going to take a second and thank the main sponsor of our show, Ryan Reynolds and his phone company, my cell phone service provider, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month. And now for the plot twist. I'm just kidding. There isn't one. Mint Mobile just has premium wireless from $15 a month. There's no trapping you into a 2-year contract or opening the bill to find all these crazy fees. There's no luring you in with free subscriptions to streaming services that you'll forget to cancel and be charged full price for. With my old wireless provider, every month when I opened the bill, it was like playing roulette. I never knew how big the bill was going to be, and it always seemed to get bigger. With Mint Mobile, it's totally different. I know exactly how little I'm paying every month, and there's never any surprises. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or a family. And at Mint Mobile, families start at just 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And guys, you get to use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. So transferring over couldn't be easier. So to get premium wireless from just $15 a month and no unexpected plot twists, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. You'll make your wallet very happy at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. I can't recommend them highly enough, guys. My phone bill is now like literally less than a third of what I was paying before. It's crazy. Make sure you go and check them out. And thank you again to Mint Mobile. All right, guys, with that now down, let's get over to your thoughts, theories, questions, and comments. Rob, what do we got in our super chats?
John, we start with the great Stubble McShave, who says, I never thought Disney Star Wars would do the Olaf thing.
Which one was Olaf?
Olaf was the first person that Batman beats up in Tim Burton's Batman, like kill him.
Oh, yes. And then, yeah, it was such a, it was beautifully done. That the whole, you could see it coming through the episode, but it was done so well because when Andy Serkis and when Andor and what was Andy Serkis's character's name? I keep forgetting his character's name.
It's Kino.
Or Kino, okay, right? So when Andor and Kino are standing there and you could see it impacting them, you as the audience member felt it too. Like it was just so beautifully done. It was great.
I agree.
All right, what's next?
We got to do Andy here.
Andy says, why couldn't Triple H's initials start with X's?
XHXHXH?
Triple X? I don't know.
I don't know. All right, what's next?
I guess they couldn't. Orange Hand says, when it comes to writing a script or novel, what would you, well, John's done both. What would you say is more difficult? Getting the first draft done or the revising and editing process? First draft. That's always the hard I totally
part.
agree with you.
Like for me, it's far easier to refine because then you've got it there, right? To refine. It's that first draft. I remember when I wrote The Pride, I think the first draft took me like 4 years, and it shouldn't have, but it did because I'm not a novelist. And then everything else was under a year. After that, it was like cleaned up, blah, blah, blah. And that was for screenplay, shorter, much, much shorter for a screenplay. But even then, I remember like when I wrote the screenplay for the anniversary, I worked on that for maybe 2 years to get that. And then the revisions of it, I went through like 7 revisions in about 4 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's first draft. What about you?
I agree. I mean, facing a first draft, you're facing a blank page and you're creating stuff from scratch, characters, situations, dialogue, and here's a trap, by the way. Here's a writer's trap. When you're working on anything for the first time, get to the end of it before you start revising. Get to your end because then you'll have something done. And like you said, It's much easier to revise. A lot of writers get tripped up in wanting everything to be perfect. No. Do what's called a vomit draft. Just put it all out on paper. Get it all out there. Refine it later. Get through it. Get it done.
All right. What's next?
Zishan says, DC Studios is going to make interesting announcements besides the obvious superhero stuff. And I think one is a collab with Netflix for Sandman season 2.
I don't see that happening.
I don't either because, part of Sandman's, it's creator owned. I mean, even though it was based on, so, I mean, it would be nice, but I think it's a little too late for that because they probably have, they had an option to do a second season. It was already built into the contract. So I don't think that will change.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to see DC do much other than the comic book superhero stuff. For other movies, they have something called Warner Brothers Pictures, and that's what they're going to be doing for those other projects. DC Studios is built as a dedicated studio to that IP, and they're going to make something great out of it, I think.
You know, they used to have an offshoot called Piranha Press, and they published a text-based, it looked like a comic book, but it was more text-based, and it was called Beautiful Stories for Ugly Children. And it was great, I could absolutely see James Gunn doing, if Cabinet of Curiosity does well for Netflix, I think James Gunn might resurrect Beautiful Stories for Ugly Children for HBO Max.
All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher says, Sandman's original 75-issue run could easily fit into a total of 4 seasons. You're right. 75 divided by 18 is 4.167. If 2, 3, or 4 are 13 episodes, not 11, it easily fits. It might not even be 75. They might skip Facade and Tales in the Sand. I think they're absolutely going to skip Facade. Hey, man, Sam, I'm all about that, but then you could even go do Overture and the Dream Hunters as well, which would be dope. And Endless Nights.
Percentage-wise, though, how many Netflix series get to a 4th season?
Not many.
I can't see it happening.
The one thing, though, is there are arcs in the Sandman that aren't nearly as expensive as something like Season of Mists, when it's they're much more down to earth, more like how the Doll's House was as opposed to going to hell. So maybe, just maybe.
But here's Netflix's philosophy, though. Netflix's philosophy is we make shows that will get us new subscribers.
Right.
And by season 3, now I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying this is what their philosophy is. By season 3, sometimes they think by season 2, anybody who was going to sign up for Netflix to watch this show has already done so.
It's true.
And so they go, okay, we're done with it. Their history's been, no matter how good or how successful, we're done. Now we'll move on to other new shows that might attract new subscribers. Now, maybe with this ad-supported tier, that might change things a little bit.
I agree. I was going to bring that up.
Because before on something like Netflix, view numbers didn't mean shit. Like, but this thing had 5 billion people watch it. Guess what? It doesn't matter to Netflix. That doesn't actually make them any money. But with an ad-supported tier, that can start making the money. So maybe we'll start seeing a little bit of shift in that.
And I'll tell you, John, the Sandman does have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So if they get to issue 75, it's over. The story's done. And I would love to see that.
The trick is you call it Somebody Feed Sandman, and it's all the food he imagines. It'll last like 9 seasons on Netflix.
Could happen.
Could happen. All right,
There's not
what's
that
next?
much material. Mr. Graham 91 says, if you guys recommend one movie that is a must watch, excluding the greats like Godfather, Apocalypse Now, Lawrence of Arabia, what would they be?
The pirate movie.
What do you
Terminal.
mean by excluding the greats? Like, I mean, because any movie that I could mention, like I could say Star Wars, but that is considered one of the greats. I could say Lord of the Rings.
Maybe movies that wouldn't show up in the AFI 100 best list.
Or just like not obvious ones.
Yeah, you know which one.
Oh, no.
Well, no, it is not Terminal.
It's the pirate movie from
You know which
1981.
one. Let the people decide if it is. Should
The
be
people
Terminal.
decided
You
by
need to
not going
watch
to
it,
watch
people.
it when it was in theaters. I don't know. I mean, what's a must watch? Okay, then what's number 101 on the AFI list? I mean, I'm not really sure.
You know what? I would say the director's cut or the bootleg version of Almost Famous. I think everybody should watch Almost Famous.
Almost Famous is pretty good. Yeah, since I'm not really clear on what the parameters is, I can't give an answer to that. But Almost Famous is a good one.
What's a famous movie though a movie that you love that isn't necessarily on the tip of everyone's tongue?
Or one that people wouldn't think you would like.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give 2. One, but it's an Oscar winner.
That's
But
okay.
still,
Oh, yeah, so you're only high class.
Roberto Benigni's Life is Beautiful.
I think that's a great choice though.
I think it's one of the greatest films ever made.
I think it absolutely fits the parameters of what was asked.
So there would be that. And then there's another one that it's fallen out of favor. It's no longer cool to like this movie, apparently. But it's one of the movies that reminds me about why we love the movies. And it's Octavia Spencer, Emma Stone. It's The Help. I passionately love that movie.
Well, that's another great example.
Yeah,
I
that
think
one-
that's what they were looking for.
Yeah, so those are two movies that. But if I really thought about it, I'd probably come up with 20 more above it. But anyway.
Cinema Paradiso. Go see it.
Yeah.
Another
Cinema
great one.
Paradiso.
That goes great with Life's Beautiful too. Ulatan says, "Welcome back, Ray.
Oh, thank you.
I missed the show yesterday, so I don't know if it was discussed. But did you burn your foot on a Foreman grill? I'm kidding.
That's
exactly what happened.
exactly what happened. You
I'm
nailed
running
it.
with that.
You
Hey,
predicted
listen,
that,
don't get.
yeah.
He likes to wake up to the smell of crispy bacon.
That's right.
I'm made of bacon.
Bacon.
That might be the problem.
No, Ray had a problem with his foot. Had a little bit of surgery, but he is back.
It actually feels better today too. Like yesterday, I was
That's
still
how
kind of
healing.
gingerly
That's
walking.
how healing works. Every day.
Yeah, but
See what happens
today
when you go to the doctors and get them to fix
Surprising, isn't it?
I could get my twerk on pretty soon.
things? My torque.
Oh, Taylor would love that. Don't worry, we'll make a video.
All right, what's next?
Jim Bob says, "Are you going to review God of War Ragnarok? I'm sure the movie is going to be available day one. It's 94% on Metacritic, which makes me even more excited for it."
Yeah,
don't think
some of
we've
you may
ever
not
reviewed it.
know this, but going back to the early days of when I started the John Campea
The follow-up
YouTube channel after I left Collider, I really enjoyed doing them too. I would do video game cutscene movie reviews. Now, the trick though is that like God of Wars was like 18 hours long.
Wow.
But I tell you what, I ripped through those 18 hours. I remember I did one for Red Dead Redemption, which is great. I did one for Uncharted, which was one of Ray's greatest thumbnails that Ray ever made,
yeah.
was our Uncharted review. And that one was
game
like,
is horrible to me because you know what? On Uncharted 4, you know how you have to sneak away from the orphanage village? I couldn't even get past the tutorial. I kept getting caught and I got frustrated. I turned it off.
but
That's how bad I
But
am.
the cutscene movie of it, I think it was called Thief's End. I think that was like 14 hours long. And so, but yes, I am absolutely, because I love the story of Thor, of God of War, I should say. I am very much going to be looking immediately for the first cut of a cutscene movie out of that. It's probably going to be 20 something hours long, but
Yeah.
I will definitely review it. And see, here's the thing though. I don't know if I'm going to play it.
Let's play it. Bring your PS5 in.
Well, here, I need help because I am a self-admitted terrible console game player. Because controllers are not good for me. But I tried playing not long ago. I tried sitting down and playing God of War, right? The most recent one, the one that won Game of the Year. And I got about 20 minutes into it to the first time you get to a witch. There's the first witch you got to fight. And I could not get past her. And I finally said, fuck this. And I just walked away from it. I never touched it again. So if like you or Ryan or somebody can come over and help walk me through this.
Yeah. Me and Taylor could run through this in this office while you guys do the show.
Then
with
I
a
want,
picture.
then I will try. If you can help me get through the first game, then I will play the second game.
That game is perfect for controller.
Yeah.
Is
Like
it?
I don't see how you would play God of War using a keyboard and mouse. God of War is like made for a controller. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely.
All right, what's next?
Bond presents. Highly recommended you check out the video of Michael Shannon reading the Delta Gamma sorority letter on Funny or Die. It's hysterical.
I have never heard of this, but you've got my attention.
Oh, it's old. That's old school. That's old school internet.
Is
you
it?
Should, yeah, you should check it out.
It's an older funny because
Yeah.
they still
I
produce
remember this one.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay,
really good.
I'm definitely going to go and check it out. All right, what's next?
Andy says, why did Vaemon Valerian get triggered like that in front of the king in episode 8 of House of the Dragon? I guess he couldn't save face and just lost his head.
Oh,
Of course, that's Corliss's brother. Who was it? Somebody just did a Halloween costume where they literally, all they did was took a mop and put it on their head and said, I'm Corliss. I'm trying to remember who it was, but it's like, because Kevin Hart played Tyrion Lannister, dressed up as Tyrion Lannister, which is one of the funniest things I saw. And then I'm trying to remember who it was. They literally just put a mop on their head and said,
that is a
"I'm
great.
Corliss." It was great.
Man, can we rewind? Let's do Halloween. again.
It was great. That's the thing about House of the Dragon. Every character is awesome.
Yeah.
Like even the despicable ones.
Yeah.
They're great characters. But Corliss, I would have watched an entire show just on Corliss.
I'm with you.
All right. All right, what's next?
Fry Minis says, just saw 10 Cloverfield Lane. need to remake with Rob as John Goodman and Ray as Mary Elizabeth Winstead. If John can grow a beard, he could be the other guy.
Yeah, no.
What was the other guy? There's another guy in that movie.
Yeah,
Ray,
he
and it would
was
be
already
John
down there
Goodman.
in the basement.
Yeah, he was already there.
I like that movie.
Contrary to popular belief, I can grow a beard. It literally takes me about 2.5 months, though.
It'll take me my whole life.
Take you your whole
I should have
life.
started when I was a baby.
You know what part of the problem is? I don't grow hair here. Like that spot, like, so as everybody else is growing facial hair, so and it grows everywhere, the mustache area right there, and I just don't have any hair grow right here.
Rob,
so that's why I don't rock any facial hair.
You got a lucky Rob. You could grow a beard.
You know, I
whenever
used to not be able to grow any facial hair, and it's been recent.
Oh, so I could have some luck later on.
My hair. The only problem is when you grow facial hair, that means you get nose hair and ear hair, so there's a trade-off.
I got lucky there. I don't get much of either of those. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty lucky there. And unlike most of the men in my family, I kept my hair.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing too.
That's
but
good.
fortunately, you get your hair from your mother's side. My Italian side, my dad's side, no, all of them bald. All of
But he
them.
makes up
My
for it.
dad, his brother, his dad, all of them. But fortunately,
What are their names?
my dad's brother is Paul, also Paulo. My dad's father is Giovanni.
Yeah, because I love hearing you say the names of your
Well,
uncles.
yeah. So my grandfather, who's the oldest brother, he came over, right? He came over on the boat and brought his 4 brothers with him. So it's Giovanni, Carlo, Vincenzo, Sagarlo, and Romolo.
Vincenzo.
Man, that's
So
a
those-
band. That's
yeah.
a band.
Yeah,
They should
go
have started
get
a band.
And yeah,
Vincenzo.
I gotta find this picture too, because there's this great picture at my grandfather's retirement party of him in this chair and his 4 brothers standing around him. It's like, and I remember I asked my dad once, like when I was like in grade school, Dad, is our family in the mafia?
Was it a party?
Go play, son.
Was it a party or a meeting?
All right, what's next?
I've had those conversations too. I'll let you know the answer after.
Raymond Verada says, I want Michael Bolton and Lonely Island to do Go the Distance or any new theme song for the new Hercules movie. By the way, can the Russos do a full Rogers the Musical for film? Lonely Island could do that too.
Now, that's a little bit too long, but I'll tell you what. Lonely Island and Michael Bolton's song, Jack Sparrow, is one of the funniest Saturday Night Live bits ever. Because that song starts and that song, it hits.
It's great.
Right? Like,
It slaps, as this kid
as
say.
the kiddies would say, it slaps. But I mean,
slaps.
the whole opening of it in the club and goes, and then they cut over to Michael Bolton starts singing, "This is the tale of Captain Jack." I'm like, wait, what's going on? And it just gets funnier and funnier and funnier.
Did you see Charlize Theron was on like Kimmel a couple weeks ago? And she was talking about like her best friend who's a huge Michael Bolton fan. And that she just called Michael Bolton out of the blue and asked him if he would come and sing to her at her birthday. Like she didn't even know Michael Bolton. And Michael Bolton said, well, you know, if I can organize it when I'm in town. So he was in town to play a show and he just showed up. I mean, I mean, if I was a celebrity, I would wield that power all the time. But like Charlize Theron was very funny. She's like, I didn't know. She was all like sheepish. Like I called him and I didn't know what was going to happen. Like she was so adorable. And Michael Bolton showed up and they had like this video. And when he walks out, the woman, the friend of Charlie, couldn't even, she was like hiding in her husband's arms. It was the most adorable thing ever. Kudos to you, Charlize Theron, and kudos to you, Michael Bolton, for doing that.
Not counting Captain Jack Sparrow. Favorite Lonely Island song?
A jizz in my pants.
I got to go.
That wasn't even a song. I think that was just a statement.
It was just a statement. Ray, what about you? Got a favorite?
I don't know them well enough, but I do like that song on Pop Star that they did. Where Humble.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, Humble is
that
so
one made
funny.
me crack up so
With
much.
Adam Levine. What about you, Taylor? You got a favorite Lonely Island song?
This is going to shock everybody, but it's Dick in a Box.
I mean, that's kind of the one that put them on the map, right?
Did they do the Narnia rap?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that too.
Or the
And
birthday. Birthday. It's her
Birthday?
Oh, yeah.
Where they slammed the birthday.
The Natalie Portman.
The Natalie
To the
Portman rap.
That
ground.
one's so
That's
good.
good too.
Also, I just had sex. I mean,
Oh.
Lonely Island is great. And by the way, if you have not seen Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping,
Oh, dude.
you've got the third act isn't as great as the first 2 acts, but the first 2 acts alone are totally worth it. You got to.
By the way,
movie.
that movie, and people are going to look at me like I'm out of my mind. I'll lose all credibility, maybe. Never Stop, Never Stopping, Pop Star makes a great double feature with Josie and the Pussycats. They're both about the music industry, dude. I'm telling you, if you don't like Josie and the Pussycats, you need to give it a reassessment.
Wait a minute, what's the song they do too?
Backdoor Lover?
No, the one they do with Justin Timberlake as one of them, and where they start dating each other's moms. Oh, remember that? Because Susan Sarandon's in
Mother Lover.
Mother
Lover.
Yeah, where they start hooking up with each other's moms.
Man, I think they're a product of marijuana.
They're amazing. I love Lonely Island. All right, what's next?
Chef Rigo.
Chef Rigo.
Chef Rigo.
Whatever happened to that Chris Benoit movie?
Benoit. Chris Benoit.
Was it Benoit?
Yeah.
Benoit.
So, why am I freezing on her name?
What an idiot I am.
Benoit.
Why am I freezing on her? The one who directed the Punisher film, the Punisher Warzone film.
Oh, Lexi. Why am I her last name?
Something like that.
Why am I drawing a blank on Lexi's last name?
Yeah, she was going to do a Chris Benoit movie. Now, for those of you who don't know the story about Chris Benoit is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And then out of nowhere, also one of the most beloved guys in the industry. And then all of a sudden, one day, somebody went to his house and they found that he had murdered his wife and child and shot himself or hung himself, whatever. Then now in an autopsy,
Lexi Alexander, thank you. She's great. I like her a lot. And Punisher Warzone just came out in 4K.
Yeah, well, I love Punisher Warzone. But then when they did the autopsy on him, they found his brain. They said, I think the quote was something along the lines, his brain looked like a 90-year-old with severe Alzheimer's. And so that brought up a lot of conversations about all the concussions and all the head trauma that he took as a professional wrestler. And it's just, it's a horrible, heartbreaking, tragic story about, so I don't know. My only guess is they could never clear the rights issues because that is a fascinating story to tell. And it's a tragic story to tell, but as far as I know, it's kind of sitting on a shelf somewhere. I don't know if it's ever going to get made. All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher says, Gaiman said on Tumblr, he's known about the renewal for many weeks. Is keeping a renewal quiet like this common? I thought they'd announce those ASAP, but he said the cast found out yesterday too.
I mean, he may have known that it was happening, but you never want to say anything until it's signed. Like once it's signed, done, locked. Like you can know a month in advance. Yeah, this is what we're doing. We're working out the final details, but it's happening. We're locked. Like we've had that with some sponsors where we found out like quite early in advance that, this sponsorship might be happening here. Like, for instance, we signed a great, again, big thank you to the guys at Mint Mobile, but we signed a big Mint Mobile sponsorship. Like normally sponsorships with us last a couple of weeks. That's how long the sponsorships last. When Mint Mobile signed up with us, they signed up for the full year. So like right to the end of 2022, Mint Mobile is our main sponsor. And that's insane. And I knew that was coming, but until all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed, I didn't put out an announcement about it. But then once it did, it was crazy. I was crazy. Like Ryan Reynolds retweeted our tweet about the big announcement that they were now our major sponsor. But so you keep quiet about that stuff until it's 100% done.
Great. You know, when we got the deal with Warner Brothers and Silver Pictures to make Hills Run Red, it was greenlit. The movie was greenlit. We knew it was going to happen, but it didn't happen for a year. So we had to sit on it.
Right.
You know, but you can't tell anybody, even though it's greenlit, because there's a lot of other people involved that have to have their deals signed, and there's a lot of other moving pieces.
You told people though, Rob. We know it.
You told people.
But I didn't go on the IMDb.
We know
it. All right. What's next?
Enzo the Baker. Nice reference.
I love that.
Late question. Where did you get that mini Pennywise bobblehead where the head kept rocking back and forth forever? You mean the one I wanted to shoot in the head and destroy?
That thing never stopped.
It never stopped, never stopping.
Always in
you know
Rob
what?
shop.
I blame that man over there.
Yeah, Taylor's
ruining Rob's
That was
shops.
actually a gift from David's aunt. Shout out to Aunt Kathy. She got it at Big Lots, and it was solar powered, which is why his head never stopped moving, but also possessed.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was just a regular bobblehead doll, and for whatever reason,
It
just
never stopped.
crazy.
It never stopped.
I remember I was the last one in the office one night. I was the last one in the office. I was in my office, And when I came out to leave, it was like 7 o'clock at night.
Of course.
And that thing was on your desk, and it was still doing this. I'm like,
Yep.
And you went this way. You went around.
I walked around the back. It's like, nope, no, thank you.
Stay away.
Can I show something really quick?
John.
Can I show something really quick?
Let's do a show, John.
If you're a fan of the bobblehead, let me just show you what Ray got me. While he was out, it's not going to focus on it, but he got me a really cool Annabelle Tiki mug. So thank you so much for that,
It's
Ray. I really
because
appreciate it.
you guys, when me and Rob were like showing off our tiki mugs, you guys were like, I want one. Where's mine? So I just got the whole crew some.
He did. You got one for
Ray got us
everybody.
all tiki mugs.
See right
We
here.
got to.
We're all drinking
All right,
aviation.
let's keep going here.
Yeah.
What's next?
Start out. Jay sent, how come when a popular show is canceled by Netflix, Friends in College, Teenage Bounty Hunters, Dark, that they aren't picked up right away or at all by another streaming company that is light on content?
For every one of them, there would be a different answer. I mean, it could be an entire myriad of possibilities. One could simply be budget. One could be, like, if you hold the rights to it, the part of the reality is there are rights that exist where, like, let's say I own the rights to, I don't know, Ray Ora's Foot Dynasty. Ray Ora makes a series called Foot Dynasty. And I make that show and I put it on the John Campea network, right? But then I decide, you know what, I don't want to run the show anymore. I may still hold the rights to it, though. And I don't have to give them away. I don't have to share them. I have to give them away. I can hold on to them forever. Now, then there are a lot of circumstances where the individual show creators actually hold those rights. And if you don't want to be the distributor anymore, they can shop it around to another distributor. But there's licensing issues. There are terms of rights. There's financial considerations. So the reality is for every single one of these shows, there's a possible answer to it. So I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, no, I mean, they probably do like a 3-year deal.
Right.
And then at the end of 3 years, when you renegotiate, everybody wants to make more money because if it's successful enough to warrant a 4th season, people are like, hey,
They're asking for
pay
big
me.
raises. Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why. And remember, Netflix has actually rescued shows from other places and brought them over.
Lucifer,
Lucifer,
Designated Survivor.
yeah. And so they give it another season, which they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So,
All right. What's next?
James LH says, John, here's a different type of date for you. In 1979, on November 4th, it was the beginning of the events that led to the film Argo.
Oh,
Yes, Rob, 4K Steelbook. I've got mine coming
that
from
when that
Zammy.
whole thing with the embassy and
Yeah.
all that stuff was going on.
Because the hostage crisis.
You know what? I haven't watched Argo in a few years. I got to
So
watch
good.
it again. It's such a great movie.
So
And
good.
of course, the Canadians are the heroes in Argo. But yeah, I got to watch that again. The good date for pulling that out, man. All right. What's next?
What? The Canadians are good guys in Argo? Why? What did I forget?
It's ultimately the Canadians that
Like intelligence service?
Yeah, go watch the movie.
Yeah,
again.
I don't remember that.
All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher says, Gaiman was asked why all the reports don't say season 2. They say more episodes. He said, wait and see. And a lot of that is because the first season was really 2 short seasons and a special. That is true. So maybe they're going to do the season of Mists.
Yeah, I look, it's all semantics.
Yeah,
It's kind of like in the MCU when they call things phases. It's an arbitrary thing that's just made up that doesn't really mean anything. So, I mean, seasons is simply, this year we're going to do this and next year we'll do that, but it doesn't really mean anything. All right, what's next?
Matt Boyle says, hey, Rob, Susan Sarandon's a redhead. I know.
And
Is
she's
she in real
76.
life?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, if you want to see an interesting Susan Sarandon performance, might I direct you to 1983's vampire film, The Hunger, which is, of course, directed by the great late Tony Scott. And there's a great scene between her and Catherine Deneuve in the movie. That's all I'm going to say.
My favorite Susan Sarandon
Vampire
performance, and I don't think anybody will guess this, is actually Bull Durham.
Oh, dude, that's the best.
I love her in Bull Durham.
I mean, she is awesome in that movie.
Yeah.
Oh, and then that speech.
Is that where she met? Was Tim Robbins in that?
Yeah.
too?
Right.
With,
He was the
with
rookie.
Kim-
plays Nuke.
So that's where is that where they met though?
You know what?
I
It
can't
might
remember.
have been.
Might have been the movie where they met.
It
maybe.
might have
I can't
been.
remember though.
And it's Kevin Costner.
Yep.
Dude, that movie is so
I
good.
love that movie.
It's so good.
All right, what's next?
Richard Cutts says, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is also getting a theatrical release.
Is it? I did not realize that.
I didn't know that either. That Was that it's Netflix produced, right?
I believe it's a Netflix thing.
Interesting.
Now, again, is it getting a legit theatrical release or is it getting a LA qualifier? I mean, that's a good question, but I'm going to have to look into that. So, Taylor, if you can look into that a little bit too, that'd be good. All right, what's next?
Peter Cunnington says, all I know is that Danny DeVito has to come back as his character from the first Hercules in live action form.
You know, I don't think that's going to happen.
Probably not.
No, I don't think they're going to do that. And quite honestly, I don't think that would work. I really don't. But I do love Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Dr. J says, sometimes we don't realize how vital people are until they're gone.
True.
So I think it's time for Ray Ora to get his own executive office, plus a couple of those John Phillips suits that Hans Gruber and Arafat wear. John Phillips London. I have two like it myself.
Ray's back.
Yeah, I'm back. But I like to be out here with the boys. You know, I don't need my own office.
He has
I
his
might
own office to fall asleep.
Yeah, I'll fall asleep. You
will
won't
fall
ever
asleep.
see me again. That's the reverse thing you want. Where's Ray? He's in the office. He's sleeping.
He's sleeping.
He's snorlaxing. Al Renshaw says, if Knives Out 2 is successful, do you think they could try a limited theatrical release with expensive shows like Sandman, or is that out of the question?
It doesn't. Why would you? Like, I mean, that's the thing. Look, Game of Thrones played around with this a bit. It's a nice, modest little success, but a season opener, things like that. But at the end of the day, and ultimately, like, the movies are great. Netflix's shows is what drives their subscriptions. The shows is what drives their subscriptions. So for Netflix, it would almost be counterintuitive for them to take those shows. But and honestly, with most audiences who are accustomed to just watching that show at home week after week for free, I don't know that there would be a big impetus for people to go to the theaters to see it. I don't know, Rob, what do you think?
I mean, it really depends what it is.
Yeah.
You know, if it was a big epic, like multi-part, like a 3-part something that would last an hour and a half. Like, look, I think it's funny, after Tulsa King and Yellowstone was in the theaters, I don't know if they were happy with the numbers that did, but if I could do anything like that with a TV show, I would put episodes 9 and 10 of Picard season 3 in a theater. Absolutely belong in a theater. They won't do it, but they should.
I just don't know that anybody would go in any real numbers. Like they've watched it at home every week and they'll know it's coming.
That's
out.
a good. That's the thing.
Why
I don't think they
people
would
go?
either. But they might. You know, they would just say to be continued in a theatrical release.
All right, what's next?
Jai CSC says, is it the distributor that pays for marketing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. They are the ones who make all the decisions about marketing, how it's going to be marketed, where it'll be marketed. They have to foot the bill for marketing, all that kind of stuff. Now, a distributor can also, with a production company, work in balance and losses and all that kind of stuff. That can be individualized to each individual's contract. But generally speaking, yes, the distributors pay for all the marketing and make all the decisions about the marketing. All right, what's next?
Mista 47 says, over under 98% that Danny Lewis makes his triumphant return to acting for a cameo in Blade as Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Slayer.
I cannot remember who Danny Lewis is.
He must have played Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, Daniel Day-Lewis. Okay, now let me see
He
the
just said
question
Danny
again.
Lewis.
I'm like, is that a guy,
But he
Danny
means
Lewis?
get it
Oh, they're
because he played
buddies.
Lincoln.
They're buddies.
Yeah.
As Abraham Lincoln. I'll take the ever so slightly under 98%.
Yeah, I mean, me too.
But God, we need Daniel Day-Lewis back.
We
I
do.
know he's super happy in his life and everything, but I would love Daniel Day-Lewis back. He's the greatest of all time.
It's true.
All right, what's next?
Vatos Locos Forever.
Yeah.
Nice. That's
Blood in,
him.
blood out.
Blood in, blood out. What would you call Hercules if he was a scientist? Molecules.
Molecules?
Molecules.
Yeah.
I mean,
No drum hit for that.
That's not that.
No
Or as the
drum hit
British
for
say,
that.
On that
it would
side,
be
No
there's a
drum
huge drum
Or it's
hit from my
molecules.
side.
Molecules.
Molecules. I got it wrong. Sorry, I killed your joke. But you know what? You deserve all the kudos in the world because you're Vatos Locos forever.
Locals forever.
All right, what's
And
next?
milkweed. CJ Rebirth says, aren't you afraid? I'm terrified, but my father told me you should always face what you're afraid of. R.I.P. Robin Williams.
Which movie was that from?
Is that from?
or is that something his kid just said?
No, isn't it from the Dream? Oh my God, like
What Dreams May Come?
What dreams
Yeah,
may
isn't that
come.
from What Dreams
Was that a
May
line
Come?
from What Dreams May
I
Come?
don't know. I've seen
I
it
don't remember
forever.
the line. But yes, R.I.P. to Robin Williams for sure. All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher says the new Sandman episodes can feasibly start
Oh,
shooting.
wait, what's it, Hook?
Well, now someone's saying Jumanji. So I don't
Jumanji?
know. I'll Google.
Or was it Hook?
Google
Or,
that
okay.
question.
Anyway, yeah. What's next?
Sam Fisher says that new Sandman episodes can feasibly start shooting soon because back in September, Gaiman said the scripts are complete and the VFX department has been working on it. Well, I would imagine so. I mean,
except logistics.
well, yeah.
Like,
And the actors.
Yeah, you've got to now arrange schedules for everybody, right? So I mean, yeah, in theory, something can start shooting as soon as like a whole ton of pre-production has been done and you've got the script already. But then comes the really hard work of like scheduling your crew, scheduling your cast, getting your directors lined up, all that kind of stuff. So who knows? Maybe soon, maybe not.
And by the way, one of my new favorite actors is Mason Alexander Park, and they're amazing. And I want to see more of them as Desire. I can't wait.
All right, what's next?
That quote was from Jumanji. Alan
it was
Parrish,
from
yeah.
Jumanji. Okay, there you go. All right, what's next?
Alan Ling says, hey, John and
By the
crew.
way, Alan sends like a $20 super
yeah,
chat. Thank you, Alan.
Hey, John and crew. The last episode of Andor really brings depth to what Andor said in Rogue One. Everyone in the rebellion had to become people they didn't want to be for the cause. Also, so happy for Sandman season 2.
I mean, again, it feels like every week for a couple of days after Tuesday at midnight, we are just waxing poetic about Andor. It's so incredible. And you're right. Like, this series really is, we're getting to see the painting of the picture of the individual named Andor that we meet in Rogue One. And we are getting why people are willing to fight and why people are willing to die and all this kind of stuff for this thing. It's just, this is next level Star Wars, what we're getting.
Yeah, it really is.
I've kept saying this is Star Wars for grown-ups. I am at a loss for words how great it is. I still think right now that out of the big clump of shows that came out just recently, I still think House of the Dragon might be in my number one spot.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if Andor continues its level of excellence that it has right now, right through to the season finale, I may have to revisit that and think about that some more, because that's just how good the show has been.
I agree.
It's crazy.
And I think the next 3 episodes, you're going to have the prison break or whatever. And then the next 2 is going to be all out,
Yeah.
whatever. And it's going to be amazing.
All right. What's next?
Sam Fisher says, with Netflix experimenting with a non-binge model, I could see them releasing a season of Mists and then a Game of You a couple of months later, depending on what season 2 covers. I could absolutely see that as well. That's not a bad plan. And a Game of You won't be nearly as expensive as Season of Mists. Maybe.
Look at the success that Netflix had and have had lately. They have started their crawl towards week by week releases, right? They started by taking a couple of major series and splitting their seasons in 2. So they did that with Lucifer and saw huge response to it. They did it for the most recent season of Stranger Things, right? They released the first bunch of episodes, then they had like a month and a half break, which everybody just talked about the next episode's coming. That's all anybody talked about, and then had a huge response. This is, again, much like their theatrical release model, this is Netflix going a crawl method that we're going to do a little step into it, breaking it too. I bet you within the next 2 years, you're going to see some big series that breaks their season into 3 parts.
Yeah, whatever. And
then eventually they'll get to week releasing.
It's really interesting because the thing about Sandman is they're skewing so close to the comics that they know that they can take some of those comics and they're going to get 2 episodes out of each one. And because of all the comic books, the Sandman stories are broken into these very specific books. It's not an anthology show in the sense that each episode can, although it could be, but you have big storylines that can be 5 episodes, 10 episodes. It's going to be really
By the way,
interesting to
somebody
see.
just reminded me, I think it's Brian in the live chat reminded, Arcane did that. Arcane released it in like, I think
Right.
3 episode blocks, and it just created this momentum for the show. I think Ozark also did the
Yeah, they did
split
that.
season thing. So
Season 4 was
we are
broken
seeing Netflix slowly crawling towards that whole paradigm shift. So we'll see if they continue with that. All right, what's next?
Zashawn says, MCU definitely salivating for Pedro Pascal. X-Men? X-Man?
I mean, listen, Pedro's in the Disney family right now, right? Being Mandalorian. I wouldn't doubt. Now I don't see him as X-Man at all, but I mean, that's a younger guy you gotta go get for that. But I could totally see Kevin Feige wanting to have Pedro in there. Who would pick Forge? Ooh, can you imagine Pedro Pascal as Forge? That would be.
I mean, he would be good, but I always saw Forge as more ethnic. I mean, I guess Pedro could be.
Yeah, that's.
I would love to see Forge though as some, mixed race. The guy from Bridgerton, who everybody talks about being James Bond. He could be a great
too pretty
Forge.
boy. He's too pretty boy to be Forge.
I think he could be Forge.
And Forge needs to be a little bit older too. I think that's part of the
true.
reason why I really think Pedro would be good for that. Oh well, whatever. He could be anything. All right,
I just
what's
want
next?
mutants, man. Bring me mutants. Stub McShave says over under 30% the Sandman season 2 is not released all at once. Oh, I think over.
Over.
100%.
See, technically speaking, season 1 wasn't either.
Right.
Technically speaking, so I would take over. I wouldn't go 100%, but I'll go over 60%.
Especially if they decide to go with 2 10 episode seasons as part of season 2 part 1 and season 2 part 2. Only because the Season of Mists is such an epic story that could exist on its own.
All right, what's next?
Dildar says new Godzilla movie coming. So excited, coming November 2023. Well, today is Godzilla Day, and Toho did announce. Last night they announced they are making a new man in a suit CGI accentuated new Godzilla movie, their first since Shin Godzilla, today, and there's a short that was dropped, Godzilla versus Gigan Rex, which had a lot of Neon Genesis Evangelion vibes to it. I was there for it. It's only 6 minutes long. It's dope. I think it's a section from the movie. Takes place in post-war Japan. If you're a Godzilla fan, get on it because that was really awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm really excited to skip that.
Come on, man. I'm a lifelong kaiju fan. I was dancing around twice.
All right,
Sandman
what's
got
next?
renewed, and there's a new Godzilla movie coming. I was spewing all over the walls. It was so exciting.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great. James Argenta says, "Do you think we will have a ring? Do you think we will have Rings of Power season 2?" Okay, got it. Do you think we'll have Rings of Power?
Guys, please don't just write in acronyms, please. Anyway.
Well, it's also all lowercase,
Yeah.
and I'm not used to that. Do you think we will have Rings of Power season 2, House of the Dragon season 2, Andor season 2, and a Marvel show overlap in 2024?
Well, with the exponential rate that Marvel seems to be accelerating, cranking out Disney Plus shows, and it does look like both Rings of Power and House of the Dragon are to come out in 2022. And if you look at the numbers, House of the Dragon and Rings of Power seem to both benefit by making their window that their shows were on high fantasy weeks. Like, people loved it. I think both House of the Dragon and Rings of Power benefited from that.
I totally agree with you.
So,
And it was fun for us.
and it was super fun for us. You know, there's a reason in any town you go to, if you're looking for a car dealership, when you get there, it's surrounded by 12 other car dealerships, right? Because they all know that, hey, if we create the place where you go if you want to buy a car and all of our dealerships together, it's going to be a rising tide raises all ships type of situation, right? So I would not be surprised at all if we get Rings of Power, House of the Dragon with their season 2s to coordinate and come out roughly at the same time. Because I think they both got big bumps from each other for doing that.
I agree.
And just because there's so many Marvel shows coming, there's probably not a bad chance that that's happening too. And we had that with She-Hulk.
I could see it happen.
Just hopefully the next one will be a better one than She-Hulk. Okay, what's next?
James Argenta says, do you think, oh, that was already one I read. The man with the master plan says, my jazz music comment from the other day is meant to prevent me from spoilers for Wakanda Forever.
Right.
I can't wait for the official trailer for Pickle My Foot.
Oh yeah, there's a make-believe movie I have come called Pickle My Foot. Yeah, so
It's not make-believe.
still hard at work.
It's
on the
not
script for
make-believe.
Pickle
It's
My
become a
Foot.
documentary about a man
Starring
that's
Ray
in this
Ora.
room.
Is in
Yeah,
Pickle
I
My
won that
Foot.
role. I
Ray-
won that role recently.
Yeah, but you went full-on method, which I
Yeah,
appreciate.
That's why. It's going to be the best
So-
thing.
Next Thursday, a week today.
Is that when the trailer for Pickle My Foot drops?
In front of
week-
Wakanda Forever?
A week today is when Wakanda Forever comes out.
I'm excited, dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm also nervous about being let down. This is what every once in a while a movie's coming out and you really got to check yourself, because my enthusiasm
wreck
and my
yourself.
expectations for this movie have gotten so stupidly high
Right.
that I had to have a little, because Ann and I were talking. It's like, oh yeah, in 1 week is the movie. I had to have a little talk with myself about, keep your expectations in check. It's going to have some mistakes. It's going to have some problems. Just go in there looking for a good movie.
When you talk to yourself, is it Gollum style?
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you like go back and forth?
Oh, yeah. My hairstyle's different and everything.
And has that ever
Yeah.
worked?
I'll always come out with big pearls of wisdom after those things. All right. Is that it?
That's all.
Well, guys, that'll do it for today. Oh, what's that?
Just very quickly, I just wanted to give a shout out to Batgear in the live chat
Oh,
who
yeah.
gifted 13 memberships.
I'm sorry.
13.
How many?
13.
Holy crap. Thank you so much, dude. That's incredibly
He was
generous
like
of you.
peppering them in, like just one,
Just
and then
one
just
by
did the
one
bun.
by one.
Wow.
Thank you for doing that for your fellow viewers, man. That's incredibly generous of you. Thank you so much for that. Okay, guys, with that all down, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the super chats. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you so much for your support. Don't forget, guys, to come back tomorrow for the next installment of the John Campea Show. Click the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, leave comments below. All these things help get our videos out to a wider audience. Also, a little bit later today, we're going to be doing an open mic. Keep your guys' eyes open for that. And for myself, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, Ray Ora back there with his tiki and his foot intact,
Yep.
Jonathan Boyko running the show, Taylor Gonzalez, and myself, John Campea. That'll do it for us, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.